Welcome everyone to the Co-Creators Convergence Thursday night creator convo. I'm Noelle Marshall and I'm here with my beloved.
Good evening, everyone. Wonderful to have you with us. Reverend Angie, thank you for being with us this evening. Kathy, thank you for bringing her along. It's going to be a great time. I want to know what the news is before there's news.
That's right. Thank you, Bob. And thank you, Bob. He'll be working behind the scenes to share everything on Facebook, multiple groups there. If you have one of these handy little devices, you're enjoying this, you're welcome to pick up the link and from our Facebook page and continue to share it on and bring people there to our conversation. So I'm excited about our time together tonight. My good friend, my BFF, Kathy Mason, my fellow evolutionary from way back, and she's brought us so many wonderful, wonderful guests. And she has a wonderful show on Facebook called Conscious Business Zone. I just call it CBZ. It's Tuesdays and Thursdays at noon Eastern, 10 o'clock your time, Mountain Time. And she's brought another friend who I haven't seen for a while, but I have, she's come to one of our convergences before, and I have some of her wonderful, mystical, magical creations and crystals, Reverend Angie LaRue. So we're going to learn more about these two beautiful beings in just a moment. But right now, I want to tell you a little bit about the Co-Creators Convergence. So please stand by. So welcome everyone to the Co-Creators Convergence. I'm Noelle Marshall, and I'm going to introduce my good friend, Kathy Mason with Mason Works Marketing. And if you have a conscious business and want to get it out to a wider audience, Kathy Mason, Mason Works Marketing, she's been helping so many people get their message out. And there's not a lot of people that specialize in helping people with gifts, conscious evolutionaries, psychics, I don't know, Kathy, everything that has to do with consciousness. She has brought us so many wonderful guests. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Kathy, to introduce our dear friend, Reverend Angie. And Angie has been at one of our Co-Creators Convergences before and brought her wonderful gifts. And I am also going to show off the holy hand grenade that Angie made for me that has metaphysical properties, and she showed me how she made these. It's orgone. Oh, Kathy, we're twins. I knew it. So.
And then I also have I have lots of them. That also goes there.
So she's a very magical being, and Kathy's going to further introduce her.
Okay, well, I get to introduce Angie, and then I'll do a little centering before Angie comes on, so that everybody can come into this space and feel the energy and leave what they just did behind. But first, I just am so excited. I'm so excited to have everyone meet my dear friend, Reverend Angie LaRue. I don't know when we met, but it must have been 6 years ago or something like that. And instantly we were like chatty girlfriends. And Angie is a Crystologist. And when I first met her, that was the first thing that I found so remarkable is her use of crystals to heal people. She's also a psychic surgeon. She's a mystery school teacher. She's a Reiki Master. She is an ordained reverend. She's an intuitive. She's an energy practitioner. She is a medical intuitive also. She's a psychic who's actually been studied by the University of Colorado for her high level of accuracy, over 90% accuracy. You'll have to fill in the blanks there, please. The one thing that you can tell about Angie is she is so in tune with her higher knowing that she's on the cutting edge of everything. So these orgone generators, I had helped someone get theirs out probably 8 years before, but they're like toys compared to these. These are tools. So whatever Angie does, it's top quality and also has a sense of divine beauty to it. So, and I love you, Angie. Okay. So with that, I'm going to then just open up the Akashic Records and then have Angie take it away. Okay, Angie, is that good? Okay. So what I'll do is I usually to open up the Akashic Records, I read this prayer 3 times and then make sure that we're in. And this prayer came from a class in the Akashic Records that I took with another CCCer named Darlis Maves. And I highly recommend that class if you want to have easy access to the records. So here we go. And please just relax and breathe in and enjoy this energy. We align with our divine primordial blueprint with guidance from the Galactic Akashic Records in all dimensions. All aspects of self are here now. All universal and celestial information and all important memories for our highest good and guidance are available to us now. We have access to all stellar wisdom of light now, delivered by the Galactic Akashic Record Keepers in reverence for the well-being of all life. And so it is. We align with our divine primordial blueprint with guidance from the Galactic Akashic Records in all dimensions. All aspects of self are here now. All universal and celestial information and all important memories for our highest good and guidance are available for us now. We have access to all stellar wisdom of light now, delivered by the Galactic Akashic Record Keepers in reverence for the well-being of all life. And so it is. We align with our divine primordial blueprint with guidance from the Galactic Akashic Records in all dimensions. All aspects of self are here now. All universal and celestial information and all important memories for our highest good and guidance are available to us now. We have access to all stellar wisdom of light now, delivered by the Galactic Akashic Record Keepers in reverence for the well-being of all life. And so it is. Masters, teachers, and guides, please show us what we need to know. Okay, we're in. So with that, it is my my pleasure, honor, and joy to introduce my dear friend, Angie LaRue.
It's a joy to be here with all of you and with everybody who's watching the live from Facebook as well and wherever else it's being simulcast. Thank you, Bob and Noel. It's really a joy to be playing with in the garden with you again. And Kathy, you are my delight always. I always love playing in the garden with you.
So Angie, you have always been on the cutting edge. You always have sort of seen the future and anticipated people's needs. And we're going through these huge energy changes right now. So what do you see that we need now?
Well, I think one of the biggest things that's happening right now that's the most useful thing that we can do is so time is kind of compressing and speeding up, right? And so it used to be the thoughts and belief systems and the self-talk that we did in our head took a long time to manifest in reality. But because of this compression that's happening, our thoughts and our belief systems are manifesting really quickly. So one of the greatest things that we can do is really be in a state of self-assessment where we hear what we're thinking, we hear what we're saying, and we assess, is that the reality I want to create right now? Because our thoughts are creating our reality faster than they ever have before, which a lot of us are noticing this all the time. And that's a lot of fun if you're in a really good place. And if you're not in a really good place, you are swinging from crisis to crisis to crisis. So I think really some of the best advice there is right now is to get right with yourself. Be aware of your programming. Remove the programming in your head that you do not want, that doesn't serve you. Put the programming in that's going to serve your life so that you can become a co-creator with the universe and in your humanness.
Well, I think also what people are saying right now is we're in Mercury retrograde and all this photonic light. We're just being upgraded and upgraded and upgraded. And a lot of the opportunity is you've got the naysayer on one shoulder and the little angelic part of you on the other shoulder, and they're talking to each other. And you get to, what you're saying is you get to pick the angel and go there and be a conscious. But what are you finding is the best way to turn off both of them so that you can think straight?
We're going to get technical.
Oh, okay.
So thought doesn't happen really in our head. It happens in an electromagnetic field around us. And that field is open and porous. Okay. Other thoughts can come into it. Transmissions from cell towers and all kinds of things can come into this field and we can pick it up. So I don't think we're ever going to stop the, oh, I must buy this voice and the, I'm not happy about that voice and I, blah, 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 because it's a field. Our heads are big radio antennas that are just receiving everything. So I don't think we're going to stop it. Okay. I think what we really want to do is become the witness of the thoughts. So we're creating a separation between our personality, ego self, and what we hear, the voice in our head, to where we can observe it. It's like a witness consciousness. And so when you have some strange random thought, don't identify with it as your thought, just notice it and then continue doing whatever it was you were going to do. Be aware though, especially for those who have any of the clair abilities, that in that space, the higher self will also speak. So be discerning so that you don't just automatically throw out the voice of spirit, right? Because there's some very good stuff there. So I think witness state over mind control probably is even more useful. But at the very base level, if you are not familiar, and I think almost everybody here is very learned already, so that's why I'm speaking at that level. But if you're not there yet, work on mind control. When you hear a bad thought, a bad self-thought, just stop that thought before you finish it and replace it with a good thought. You'll be raising your frequency, your vibration as you do that. Every time a thought that's not helping you comes in, stop it and replace it with a thought that you'd rather have instead. And just that level of awareness right there leads to higher levels of awareness later on, especially when you start applying meditation or any type of spiritual practice. And the evolution of consciousness is not, in a few rare cases, it is punctuated. It's punctuated evolution. But for most of us, it's a little step at a time. And we become aware of something, and then we start applying that in our life. And that leads us to information that's available on a higher frequency set. And we find another tool to bring into our life. And we just kind of keep adding these tools. And then 10 years later, we look back at the person we were today, and we don't even recognize ourselves because we have changed ourselves. We have evolved ourselves so very much.
That's wonderful. I think these times with the contrast are the perfect time to be able to do this, because there's plenty of an opportunity as an observer to see, to really see all the different ways to be human.
Right. And we get to vacillate through that sometimes 3 or 4 times a day. We're constantly going, whoa, that's a cliff. Whoa, that's the rocks. I don't want to be there, and we're just kind of navigating hour by hour through the day, looking for the higher frequency and that which brings us joy.
Yeah.
As Jesus said, both heaven and hell exist here and now. And it's our level of consciousness which determines which we're in. And I want to play in the garden. So that's the path I'm always trying to stay on.
Right. And I think that's one of the things I appreciate about you the most is that, and I noticed from the very beginning when I met you, is that you really you try to live in love. You try to express it and experience it and share it. And I just want to compliment you so much on that, because, it just is a rarity that people are living from that space.
Yeah. And we truly can do that. We truly can stay young inside. It takes dedication, and it takes a lot of extreme self-awareness of noticing when we're not there. And there's sometimes we just can't stay there. And that's okay. Now you get to practice self-love and just hold yourself in the state that you're in, knowing it's temporary and you'll be back out of it soon. And don't do anything stupid while you're in that low state.
And that's, for us, if we realize as humans that we each have our own hologram of our own creation, and once we can see that, we get to play around with that creation, and we're not victims of it. We created it, even if it was out of ignorance or conditioning. But now the opportunity is to see what cool stuff we can do.
Yeah. And there's something about courage, which is really, really important. Physically, nobody gets out of this alive anyway. Yeah. Right? Nobody's going to escape it. So you gain nothing by playing small, but you gain everything by playing big, being courageous, right? You thought about doing this thing or trying this thing or doing that other, just do it. Just do it.
Yes.
Right? Live big. You have nothing to lose. You're not going to get out of this alive anyway.
Yeah, that's the perfect conversation. And I think that's the perfect conversation for now too, because in these times of change, many people are holding on to the past, and they're going to have a hard time holding on to it. It's everything's evolving, and we're here at a big change time where evolution's speeding up, as you said. So holding on to it rather than saying, okay, I'm here for the ride everything's for me, and put that frequency out, then that's what you get back, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely, Kathy.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit. I know we're going to go we're going to talk about your new program, but you'll have to guide me for how much time you want to do that, because I wanted to let people also know about your healings. Angie has the capacity, she has a crystal bed behind her where she does that. There it is. It's quite remarkable. The crystal bed, there's actually a capacity to expand, and she can lay crystals on you in a formation to help heal you, or do psychic surgery on you, and she can do it at a distance or in person. And my old boyfriend had gotten an x-ray. He was a tennis pro. He had gotten an x-ray for his hip, and they said he had to replace it. And we went to Angie, and 3 or 4 times later, just 3 or 4 time sessions, and his hip was healed. So she's the real deal. She's amazing. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
So when I experienced the awakening of consciousness and I started to remember all of my abilities and skills, I had spent many lifetimes as a crystal healer. And in this life, to me, a rock was a rock, and it was shiny and pretty or dull and boring, but a rock was a rock. And that was kind of the end of the story. Maybe we could describe it by some mineralogical differences, but that was about it. But when I experienced the awakening of consciousness, I suddenly remembered a lot about crystals. Their consciousness, they can communicate, information can be stored in them. They can be programmed to help humanity. They consider us liquid crystals. And so they're amazing healers in and of themselves. They're one of their particular abilities, besides grabbing, storing, and emitting photons, light, is the ability to restructure things into perfect order. They are uniquely adapted to being able to do that among all beings. That is really what the crystals bring to the table. So, working with them as a healing companion, it is just natural. It's just perfect. What better thing to use than something that's very existence, especially quartz crystal, defines order.
Oh yeah, it's perfect. And whoop, I did it again. So sorry. What's perfect is that you're using something that is natural rather than not. And that is it is.
So I'm inherently lazy.
Oh,
So nobody who knows me would actually say that. But
no.
but I like to find the shortcuts, right? And rather than study and learn, in intricate detail, every aspect of every system in the body and all of the molecular level and how the chemicals interact and everything, why not defer that wisdom to beings that know it intimately and whom God constructed to be able to work with it on a very intimate, minute level?
Well,
it allows me to do what I do best, right?
But you can direct it. That's what I was trying to explain, is that the capacity to be a medical intuitive, and then actually, so to see the distortion and then to figure out the right remedies of crystals or pattern to fix it, excuse me, is a skill.
Yeah. I consider it a collaboration or co-creation. But yes, they bring to the table their abilities and I bring to the table mine. So it's kind of like chocolate and peanut butter, right?
That's great. So, again, what do you see your role? I know you have a mystery school and you're getting more and more students. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
So when I went through the awakening of consciousness, I'm still got ongoing. There's never an end goal, but there can be a punctuated evolution within that. And my punctuated evolution was 5-6 years long, in which I was being trained essentially 24 hours a day. I even at nighttime, I was being trained. And when I say training, a lot of it was remembering and then reapplying skill sets that had been awakened or developed in other incarnations. And apparently I've been around a long time. So school was really long. And there was a lot involved in that. And so really the mystery school, what happens when people discover or experience the awakening of consciousness is they discover that everything that they now know is the same thing the mystics and the saints and the sages and the gurus have been saying all along. We all discover the same things. And so what we're saying and what we're presenting is coming out in our own iteration, or is coming through our own filter, our own way of being, mixed with whatever is retained of the personality. And so the mystery school really is the ancient traditions that have always been around, but they're coming through the filter of me. And one of the things that I'm told by people is that I have a way of saying the most complicated things in a graspable, simplified manner, which makes it obtainable to them. And a number of people have been through the school. And one of the things that they say that I love is I took this course over here and this course over here and this course over here. And they were like puzzle pieces and they wouldn't come together to make any kind of picture. But when I joined the Inner Passage Mystery School, I suddenly understood where this fit and this fit and this fit and this fit. And now, they were having this complete picture. They're building a puzzle in which they can already see what the picture is, even if they haven't finished putting in the outer pieces yet. So it's bringing this massive amount of information in which we have been taught in no other place, basically. Mainstream schools are never going to cover this, or well, I shouldn't say never, but certainly not so far. And pulling it together in a useful and usable way. So one thing I really focus on is the psychic abilities and how to use those, and getting used to just using them every day, because they don't serve us if it's just an idea that we've encapsulated, but not, and believe in, but not a tool that we can use when we go to the grocery store, or knowing who's calling on the phone even before we pick it up, or who's walking up to the door, or that there's, a new type of wildlife in the yard and we run to the, the window and it's like, oh, a bear, right? Or whatever, but just having that foreknowledge, and we all have it to a certain extent, but really using it day in and day out. I scan vegetables to find the ones with the purest life force energy. I scan shelves of shampoo to find what's gonna, work with my really long hair. Just using it as shortcuts. They are gifts, not to be put on the shelf and saved for a special occasion, but to be incorporated into our life to ease our pathway, right? So I think that's probably a fairly decent wrap up of what the mystery school is. It's really teaching people to be the best they can be. And not only that, I shouldn't say teaching, it's helping them remember what they already are and embody that into this incarnation in a usable manner. And normalizing it. I think normalizing it's a big thing. A lot of us have had skills we were afraid to use because people would say we were weird. But really, did you come here to be normal? Normal is average.
Well, you are unusual because you are so grounded you're capable of functioning and manufacturing and working with clients, and but also going way out there. And so that's one of the things I want people to know, that is such a gift that you have, is that you can meet people wherever they are and teach them, right?
Yeah, I feel like I can. You know, if there's a very strong preconceived idea of how teaching should be done, then maybe not. Mine's quite hands-on. We play in the garden. We do. There's a lot of doing.
Okay, that's great. I have a cat there. Um, so Angie, when you think about the future, you because you are psychic, and could you share a little bit about your experiment that you did with the University of Colorado, so people could, it's sort of a good build up to our conversation?
So this was, I think, the year before the COVID lockdown happened. And the university, the Psi department, had put out a call looking for people to try to effect with their mind only a random number generator machine. And they had kind of a series of set experiments that you would do where they wrote the rules and you did the experiment within the rules that they did, which involved deep breathing and some meditation techniques and stuff like that. And then you get a total of 20 experiment modules. So the first 10, they described the rule set. And the next 10, you got to try anything you wanted. And a number of people in the community had told me the Psi department was doing this and they were looking for volunteers. And I was like, oh, I'm not interested. And so I ignored it. And then, I think I ran into the head of the project who was doing it. And he invited me. He's like, why are you not here? And so I decided to go ahead and do it. And they described it to me and it was like, oh, this could be fun, actually. So I did the 10 that they wanted and I got kind of above average results. And then I got to do the 10 I wanted. And so basically we have like the datum and you're either influencing the numbers to go higher. So higher up from, 0 to 9. So this would be like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or you're influencing the numbers to go down. So it's kind of a glass is half full, half empty. Most people chose up because most people tend to try to be positive. So of course I chose up as well. And so depending on your intention, the level of your power and your influence, this graph line is going to be weaving up and down as you lose energy and maybe have a thought of, oh, this is stupid, I can't do it, it dips down. And as you say, yes, I've got this, it starts rising back up. So it's a real strong indicator of what's actually happening in your head, because we truly influence reality with our very thoughts. So when it came to time to do the last 10, I was like, oh, this is going to be fun. And I tried all kinds of different experiments. And, one of them was just opening my heart and flooding the computer with love. And the graph went, and it went off the chart, right? Another one that I remember doing was I actually bilocated on top of the circuitry and told the numbers that we were going to dance together and our expression of love was 9s. And so I'm there with them and the graph went whoop. So I was dancing as an electron with the electrons that were influencing the computer. And then at some point I pulled out the Antonian stone, right, which returns things to their original blueprint, essentially is what it does. So it's a healing device. And I used it on the computer and I flatlined the data. I was like, oops. Wasn't supposed to do that. That wasn't what I meant. I healed it from all of my influence. So they found that really fascinating. They pointed that particular experiment out and they were like, what did you do right here? And I'm like, alien devices. So that led then to, they invited me. They were like, clearly you understand what you're doing and you clearly understand quantum mechanics or physics in a way that we don't. We'd like you to help us design a project. And so that project kind of came together. They ended up kind of more deciding what it would be than I got to invite them to do. And so the project became a time jump project in which I would jump at, around 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon till to about 9 p.m. that night and watch what the lottery numbers were going to be and report back. And that went through many iterations as we learned a phenomenal amount about just the nature of reality. It was really incredible. Not in terms of the results, although I did win them the Powerball like 3 or 4 times. And I came within 1 or 2 numbers of winning the big lottery on several occasions as well. But it was an absolute trove and wealth of information about the nature of the time-space fabric and the nature of reality. And yeah, it was eventually one of these days, if CCC ever starts meeting SSE, the Society for Scientific Exploration, I'll be doing a presentation on that data. It was very interesting. Yeah.
That's cool. That is really cool. So is that a good segue to explain your the next news program?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So, yeah. So now I'm not so much bilocating or traveling out of body to the future as I am folding the time to the future for next month's news now. So, one of the things I've always felt in life was news didn't make sense. It was always after the fact. The bad things that already happened. There was nothing I could do except cry, mourn, shake my head, and feel bad, right? News happens after the fact for the most part. And so when I awakened, I started asking Spirit what the news was in advance, that the news for my own personal self. And we've been doing that for 10 years now. And so that's a long time period to really get to study something. And when the whole, COVID incident broke out in whatever it was, November, December, a very small group of people that included myself knew about it back in June. We knew it would be happening. And so this whole time I have kept a small group of people around me informed, right? And, we navigated all this time period really well with a lot of grace and ease, and we're even able to support a few people around us as well. And I went through a period about 2 months ago where I got visited basically by a muse, and it was just dropping ideas constantly into my head. And I just every day I'd have 3 or 4 new ideas that were big of things that I could do that would be useful to help humanity. And that list just got so long and overwhelmed. I was like, okay, stop, just stop. Let me get some of this finished before you inspire me further. Because I was having incredible, huge ideas before I had even finished making my morning coffee. And for anybody who knows me, I'm in a cloudy haze first thing in the morning, monosyllable grunts. I'm not a very lucid person in the morning. And I was just having these huge, big, amazing ideas, that had to do with, Egyptian mathematics and, all kinds of complicated things. And one of those was the idea of doing a newscast for the coming month's news to help people prepare for it. So understanding what the future is it's a mathematical probability based on current moment energies that can be changed by movements within the collective decisions of groups of people or humans, or even individuals. Joan of Arc changed the history of France, and she ended the 100 Years' War. You know, Mahatma Gandhi was a single person who changed the entire history of India. So when we look at a prediction, we're looking at the highest mathematical probability, not carved in stone, because these things can be changed, but based on the current moment energy, this is the most likely outcome. And as we went to develop next month's News Now, I was helped with by this with Mr. Gar, who's the prefector of the Inner Passage Mystery School, and he formerly spent, I don't know, 20 some odd, 30 years as a software engineer. And so we decided to build this as a software prediction program. And we went through a lot of different ideas of structure, because in order to cast what the news is, you have to have a huge, massive amount of words. The probability pot has to be a dictionary, right? And structured in logical ways, which turns out wasn't that easy. And so we ended up building this structure on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So yeah, so there's 5 basic components of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So originally we built a software program to look like a regular newscast, and that just wasn't covering a lot of the things that are in the news are superfluous, right? But Maslow's hierarchy of needs actually applies to us in a more usable manner, right? So the first thing is survival. The second thing is safety. The next one is social needs. So we have survival needs, needs for safety, so we don't get hurt, maimed, etc. Social needs, we are a herd creature, a social creature. Esteem, we're not going to make it very far in life if we have very, very low self-esteem. We just can't do very much. We're held back by our own internal fears. So in order for us to thrive, esteem is very important. And that's, while primarily it comes from inside of us, it is supported by culture, community, friends, family. And then the last thing is self-actualization needs, spirituality. We are spiritual beings. But when we are in survival mode, we can't even think about esteem or spiritual needs, right? We need to have survival needs met, and we need to have safety needs met before we can begin to look higher up on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So that's really what this newscast is kind of based on, is that. And so what I have today is a beta test, right? So the program is not finished. We still have thousands and thousands of words to put in it to increase the probability pot, to get even better, to get better predictions. But there was enough, at least, to run a beta test. So instead of doing it for the entirety of next month's predictions, I just did next week. So that's what we're looking at for today.
That sounds cool. Yeah. Okay. So can you show it on the screen, or?
I can, and I will. And I'm curious if anybody has any questions about this. This is next month's News Now. It's a little different idea. It's news before the fact instead of after the fact. So I'm curious if anybody has any questions, please put them in the chat, and I'll try to respond to those. And Kathy, do you have any questions?
Well, I guess I have a question about you being nervous about it.
Oh,
No,
yeah. I'm human too.
you what?
I'm human too. Yeah, my human is nervous. I think always being on the camera and talking on the camera, and this is a very this is delicate because once something's put on the internet, it basically lasts forever, right? So I'm
right.
really kind of putting my reputation and the reputation of the software designer is kind of, shared,
Yeah.
responsibility, out there. I know what my personal prediction rate is, and I've been studying it for years, and I'm comfortable with that, but nervous about how it all comes together. And then also it requires skills in being in front of a camera, in editing, being able to have that artistic end of being able to pull things together and not be, cheesy. And just finding pulling that all together. I had to buy software. I had to learn how to use it. It's been a huge education program. And this goes back to talking about living courageously.
Right.
Initially, these things look intimidating, but if you just try it, it's amazing what you can learn. So I knew virtually nothing about video editing and editing. I still don't understand the program. So what you're going to see today is courage.
Well, I think you're very courageous. I've never seen you not be, so I don't know what a nervous Angie really looks like. But but I just thought, with the field being so full of contrast, that might make it harder to do what you do. But when you say you've been doing this for a while, I mean, you use cards and you use that, you have a program on your computer, and then you have a direct conversation with source. Is this like a super version of combining all of those?
Yeah. It's essentially a whole bunch of decks in a computer program,
Oh,
and a much more complicated version of I used to date a gentleman who initially wrote me a divination program. This is much more complicated and it's much more specific. It doesn't have as much to do with the evolution of consciousness. It has to do with much more practical, hands-on, what the world our human has to live in. And Noelle is asking if I do it by remote viewing. Yes, Courtney Brown's group does that. Then they're really pretty good at it. Mine is a more psychic version, but it has elements of remote viewing in it as well. A large part of it is surrendering to the information that's already there and using the probability pot. So mine is more clairvoyant and quantum, I don't know. Yeah, I guess a little hard to explain actually. Yes, Bonnie, I will put my website into the chat. And if you go to the contact page, you can sign up to get my newsletter, which will have all the issues of next month's news in it and lots of other things too. I do have a Patreon channel, and today is the official day of the launch of my Patreon channel, which will get an invite to if you will sign up at the contacts page. And it's going to have a huge amount of things, including a little once-a-month show called Intimate Moments with the Mystic, where I really share what my life is like being a mystic and interfacing with my human. And it's kind of an expose and charming and beautiful, and it's lovely. All right, let's see. What's a big thing that I called that others missed? Oh, well, Noelle, those subjects are actually too delicate still to talk about. We'll have to wait. we've got about a year to go before we can really talk about it. So I'd like to be able to now, but too many people don't know what they need to know to be able to talk about it, and people not be disturbed, threatened, et cetera, et cetera. But let me see. That would be the big thing. 2012, a lot of people were asking, what was it that was going to, 2012. A great many people thought that all the awakened people were going to, I don't know, grow rings and fly off the planet. And I kept telling people, no, it's an evolution of consciousness and you're still going to be here. You don't get to leave planet Earth. And a lot of people didn't believe me, but here we are. So.
Yes, yes. So what is your hope that people will, how do you hope that people will use this information?
What I noticed with the newscast that I did today is it really opened me up to that there are much bigger issues in other countries, but that there's hope. And it really kind of opened me more what Spirit wanted to talk about, to a different level of realization about the oneness of humankind, that we are all really one planet. We really are one people. And that thinking nation-centric is really starting to go away, at least on the cutting edge out here. When you travel out of body and you look back at Earth, there's just not lines dividing countries. It's one planet, right? It's one big giant consciousness with a whole bunch of little tiny consciousnesses running around on it. And some of them have bark, and some have feathers, and some have fur, and some have skin, right? And it just changes really your perspective.
Beautiful, beautiful. So do you want to show your little clip?
I will. So this is only about 5 minutes long, so enjoy it. It is short. It's just a partial cast, and then these are headlines that you may likely be seeing in the world newspapers, and obviously you would, because they are different countries, next week. Okay, so not next month. I kind of made it shorter. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and welcome to this month's edition of Next Month's News Now. I'm your Futurecaster, Angela LaRue. Next month's News Now is derived by mathematical probability based on current moment energies in the collective energies of nations, states, and groups of individuals. The probability can be changed by these groups and even by individual actions of people within the collective. Now, for this month's edition of Next Month's News Now. There is currently a threat to growing teenagers in China who are not getting enough food. This is brought on by drought conditions and food distribution issues in China. Currently, the situation is severe and just being discovered. However, as alternatives and the drought eases, the situation will ease up over time. There is a critical level threat to archaeobacteria in the Middle East in the Dead Sea area. This includes haliophiles, which are found in the Dead Sea, where salt is found in high concentrations. This also exists in the Great Salt Lakes in North America. The culprit of this appears to be the drought conditions and shrinking water, which causes increased salinity. However, this will trend down as the drought eases up. Good news for Australia. Despite the current climate trends, the heat will remain within livable parameters. This trend will increase as more novel approaches and technologies are found to keep Australians in livable temperature ranges. In Africa, internet distribution and social connection and social platforms are experiencing moderate disruptions. This trend will increase in number and outages and length of outages over time. News for Africa. Africa is currently experiencing periodic disruptions of social connection and social platforms on the internet. This trend, which is moderate now, will increase in number of outages and length of those outages over time. In the Middle East, college entry for teens and young adults rarely meets the needs of the populace wishing to further their education. Over time, this will trend down. In the Middle East, college-level entries for teens and young adults, these needs are barely being met. However, this trend will be trending down as more and more people are able to attend college and universities in the Middle Eastern countries. In Central America, education and cognition development is almost meeting the needs of the people who are located there. However, this will be trending up in the near future. Meanwhile, for our neighbors up in Canada, they are not getting their social needs met for love and friendship and connection. This will be trending downward as more people in Canada face other social upheavals. In the United States Southwest, the needs of the unvaccinated to be able to enter into colleges and universities is not being met. However, this is going to trend downwards as the need to be vaccinated is going to begin to lose sway at the university and college level for entry. Under safety and security, in Northwest Canada, it will be discovered that a disease is propagating among ground vining plants in the northwest of Canada. This will be trending up as this disease takes hold. Good news for South America. There will be an influx of road building and infrastructure building machinery and materials. This will meet the needs of pace development and increase over time. Well,
That was great. No, for your first one. That was
yeah, I definitely saw some editing things. I didn't even get to go over it again. So I didn't get to go over it even once. So there was a couple repeats there. Sorry.
great. That was great for your first one. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, one's when I have a little bit more time. Like I said, this is the beta test. So, betas are betas.
What I'll do now is invite everyone. I'm going to make sure the security is turned off so everyone can start their video and so that they can unmute themselves. And I'm going to put it in gallery view. So anyone wants to join in the conversation here or have any comments? I think that was a wonderful debut, Angie.
Thank you.
Yeah. You know what I was impressed about it was that it was worldly. It wasn't just
North America.
I was kind of surprised, maybe because you think, oh, it's going to be about the United States.
Of course,
So egocentric there.
There was an interesting one I didn't, there was a number of them I had that there wasn't even time to put in. As the call started, I was, rendering the video. But there was a really interesting one I'd like to share with you all. It came in from Spirit. It was a prediction from Spirit that said, babies being born now in the Ring of Fire, which is Japan, the Philippines, Samoa, South Pacific Islands, and it goes up the west coast of South America, Central America, Western US, and then it kind of curves down and goes to the east coast of Russia and down that whole line in Japan and stuff is the Ring of Fire. And it said babies that are being born now are being born into countries which are losing their spirituality, losing touch with their traditional religions, and will not be having their spiritual needs met within their societies. And I thought it was really interesting that it was described within the Ring of Fire. Yeah, so that wasn't in there, but it was a very interesting prediction.
So Angie, do you ask it specific questions and then put it through the system? Or
it's more like I'm asking, in this case, what is the headline going to be in a country next week?
Okay.
Yeah. And so, then I kind of, and I'm still looking for qualifiers, and there's a large amount of words that still need put into the program. And I think it'll, tighten up quite a bit as we give it more fodder to run off of. The bigger the probability pot is, the better the predictions are. So, but that's just sheer man hours, that's a lot of input building a program to that. It needs a whole dictionary.
I couldn't even think to do something like that. But if anyone wants to ask a question here or have a comment, we can be casual and you just wave your hand or just unmute yourself and jump in. That's okay too.
And I'd love feedback on how the format was for you, and the visuals and the music, and just that basic structure as well.
Well, to be fair, we can't give you I can't give you 100% honest assessment, because when you're playing a video, it kind of stops. It's a little glitchy. So, because over the internet, the video sometimes, it's not as smooth, or you don't see everything. But I was very impressed with the format. I do think you need a television like they used to have on George Jetson.
Yeah. That's a great idea.
Oh, that'd be fun.
You got a 50s looking television, girl. You are way ahead of the game.
Well, there was only one other option, and it was a 70s looking television. I decided to go a little more retro.
Okay. Oh, that's too funny. Okay.
I just think it's very, very bold, very courageous on your part, and courageous to put this out there. And it's folks will have so much. Well, we all have so much in the way of judgment and judging others, judging statements, judging whatever. And the programming that we've been through, at least in this country, I'm sure it's the case in many others as well, particularly in this country, the programming that we've had, and others analyzing, quote, the news, as you said. News is something that's already happened. Michael Beckwith, Reverend Beckwith, calls it the olds. He says, yes. And he said, we read the newspaper, but it's really the olds because it already happened. And and so to jump into this is very courageous on your part, and I think it's an opportunity for people to, as the statement says at the end, for them to use their own discernment about things. It's not about accuracy; it's about discernment, and particularly, I love the way you described it in the beginning of being a collective of energy. That's energy that comes to you, through you, with you, to be able to discern and then make the statements that you're making about that which is, quote, ahead in timeless time.
Exactly. And we can change the future by our actions today,
Yeah.
Right. Yes, I second Bob. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
which is much more hopeful than the olds, right? The
Right.
olds, there's nothing you can do about it. It
Yeah.
already happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. I love
Debbie wanted to jump in here. Oh, I'm sorry, Kathy.
That's all right. Who wants to jump in?
Debbie has her hand up.
Good, yeah.
Yes,
Please.
I just learned how to do that. I'm very proud of myself. I just wanted to say, Angie, I thought it was wonderful. I thought it was really well done. And I mean, as you know, I do not pay any attention to the newspapers or headlines or anything like that. So for someone like me, I would never really know, you know, whether or not those things were actually happening. However, you had a couple of Canadian things in there, and I, of course, am from Canada and going to Canada next week. So, you know, well, they weren't good things though. So
Yeah, well, keep me posted. I'm curious about the vining plant that gets a disease in the northwest of Canada.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, that'll be very interesting. Yeah, I will definitely do that, because that would be then up in Nunavut and that area, or
Could be.
yeah.
Psychically, what I was kind of seeing is and almost as an alpine plant with kind of silver gray leaves. Yeah, so I don't know, you know, what's going to affect that exactly, but
Okay, well, my parents watch the news religiously, and I will be at their place, so this is just perfect timing.
wonderful. Well, thank you for that feedback.
No, no
And
problem.
so Debbie actually has had a show kind of like Noelle and Bomb show here for years as well. So I'm really curious, Debbie, in terms of the producing, and I'm not going to ask about the editing. Not on the beta test.
I lost you there for 1 second. I lost you there for a second. I heard you say, I'm really curious, Debbie, about.
Yeah, what you thought of the producing. I'm not going to ask about the editing because the editing really didn't get done, as we saw. There wasn't time, but the overall production.
Yeah, I really thought it was great. I thought it was really well done, and seemed quite like it's very professionally done. It's obvious that you didn't just throw a few things together, you know, and put them up there. And you're right. I mean, there's a few editing things, but you hadn't even done the final editing. So
I'll
yeah.
do that now.
Yeah, I know one thing I would say for someone like me, but this is true to how the newscasts work. They're very, very fast. And this I found very fast. So I was still trying to absorb what had been said when it was already on to the next thing. But I don't know that you can fix that, because people tend to be wanting real quick, you know, give me that information, and that's just not my world anymore. So
Exactly. And so what happens, that what we're noticing, I'm not going to say we, what I'm noticing is that the people on the awakening path are capable of longer focus and longer attention spans, and meditators and stuff like that, where the people who are not really involved in those particular type of lifestyles, their attention spans down to what, 7 seconds, I think, Kathy, or something like that. I mean, it's unbelievably short. And, you know, so, you know, and then also we have fast thinkers and slower thinkers, which may not even, that may be kind of just a biological way of being, as opposed to, you know, something. And so, you know, I'd like to hear from more people. Should I slow the cast down just a little bit for more absorption time? What was your impact? I'd like to hear from more people on your impact of how quick those news bites roll out.
One of the things
Can
for
I say
me,
something?
Yep.
We used to watch Democracy Now! It's a progressive internet news show. And Amy Goodman just goes, fast, fast, fast. And she goes around the world. And I always thought what I'd like her to do is to have a graphic, because sometimes I don't know where some of these places are she's talking about. And so, if I had a graphic on the side so I can kind of go like, oh, that's over in that region. I mean, it's my ignorance, but I think that will be, it's not, I don't think I'm in the minority here, about having a little bit more information somehow that you
I
could.
love that. Yeah, a graphic of the country. What is that country? Where was the Middle East? Right. Or what?
Yeah, or even in your graphics, if it could do, the globe and then come into that spot that where it is.
Well, I'll
And, yeah.
try.
Yeah, maybe making the bar a little bit too high there, but
I think the
as
other
long
thing,
as you have to do it, not me.
Oh,
the other thing that struck me about, you're asking about how fast it goes, is that I think for me, watching the quote news, unquote, as it's been delivered to us and has evolved from Walter Cronkite and, slow and it's this, and he developed a story, et cetera, to now 7 seconds on to the next thing, is that those that are consuming the quote news, unquote, through those channels today are watching it as Debbie said, religiously. I find that an interesting word, religiously watching the news. But those that consume that. And so they're used to that method of delivery. Oh, and by the way, they listened to it yesterday. And so half of the things they're talking about today are a continuation of the thing they heard about yesterday.
Yes.
Of the commission or this or Marlock, wherever. And so they already are ready for hearing today's version of what about Mar-a-Lago and the DOJ. You're bringing stuff that is like, wow, completely unexpected. And the next thing is also different part of the world, completely unexpected. And so I'm just, the positive thing is that the way you're going to be delivering it, people can actually choose to pause between the stories, right? It's not like they have to drink it from a fire hose at the speed that you're delivering, in the format that you're delivering it. So there's a couple of options there, and another might simply be to a introduction by you that acknowledges that people may have to absorb some of the, I don't know the right words or suggesting any particular words of how to absorb. This is a lot, and this is different, and this is unexpected. And so, not that those are the words to say, but this is a whole different method of delivery. I guess that's my point. It's a whole different method of delivery than we're used to as it relates to quote the news.
Hello.
Go ahead, Bonnie.
I would have liked a little more explanation about Canada's social unrest or whatever it was. That went by too fast.
Yeah, though it wasn't in that particular prediction. So the prediction strains threads but sometimes will hint at something else, and like in that case that's going on, but that information isn't contained within that prediction thread. So that's something I'd have to dig into to get more, or future cast may talk, more about what is that social unrest. So that was a good catch, Bonnie. Yeah, there was a dangling little something there, wasn't there? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to predict that seeing how the Queen shuffled off
Queen
the
Romana?
oil, that some Canadians are going to say, we really don't need that stuff anymore. Who knows? But we'll see now that there's going to be a change at the top of the feeding the feeding chain.
Yeah, well, maybe
Okay.
maybe Canada's Trudeau will have a who is the premier of London? What was his name now? He's already out of the news. The guy who ended
Boris
up,
Johnson?
yes, maybe something like that will happen.
Oh, my goodness, no.
Not
don't-
saying that it
Don't wish that upon Canada.
there's been some
Those hair is calm.
major upheavals politically, definitely, which was part of the impetus. These would have shown up in personal predictions for myself. Even the Queen would have showed up in a personal. Now, whether I'll have the guts to air something like that, I don't know that I will, but those things would have showed up for me in a personal, if I did a personal reading. And there's been, Boris Johnson was forced to step down. We had the vice president essentially of Japan, I think, was assassinated. We had the Pope, the Vatican is recalling all financial wealth basically to Vatican City from around the world. That's huge. Nothing like that's ever happened before. There's been a lot of big things. So, hopefully when I, get readings on big things like this, I'll have, the guts to actually report them because that's pretty edgy. The Queen's going to die. And what if she doesn't? Nobody forgets that, right?
Gosh.
Right, that's like in the old days, in the 60s, Jean Dixon, had her predictions every year, and she called a lot of big things. But so I'm wondering, you do a week, this was just for 1 week, is that correct? Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, this is just the beta, so I only looked at 1 week.
Okay,
The idea of the newscast is to do it once a month and cover a month.
okay.
So it's just going to be, the whatever kind of comes through the ethers. It's certainly not going to be everything that happens in the world or everything that
Oh,
happens.
yeah,
Right.
that'd be a big job. I mean, you're already taking a huge
That'd
job.
be a long broadcast.
So then, will you have anything looking retrospectively about how you did?
So my Mr. Gar reads the news religiously and it reports the news religiously. So he'll be my check system.
Oh, good. Oh, good. That's
Yeah.
perfect.
And I don't know if I'll take the time to, to do an intro segment where I, talk about, what news I predicted that did come true and give the example or not. I would have, and I would need to have a need to prove myself correct to do that. And I don't have that motivation at all to validate who I am. Kathy.
I have a quick question or a suggestion that I'd love it if sometime, like there is on the lighter side, if there was some segment that was on the lighter side, because all of that was about disaster.
That's what really came through. And there is, it's built into the program for, discoveries and technological breakthroughs and archaeological discoveries. But none of it showed up,
Yeah.
interestingly, in a week. So,
Well,
yeah.
I think that might be nice is to have a lighter side, just like the news used to have, even if it's a local lighter side, just a suggestion.
I like that. No, I really like that. And I thought about, in the actual broadcast as well, of kind of going back through some of the wisdom of the ages. There's been some people who have just had the most amazing quotes that just grab you and something that's just very uplifting, inspiring. I really thought it'd be nice to end the news broadcast on that really upbeat.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah, I think what Kathy and you are getting at is very important is that whether you predict anything light or not, you can still say, let's, fire up this mindset, let's bring in goodness here or lightness or, so you're kind of just inspiring, just whether it's a quotes or other things, to hold that intention. And I will yield the field to Tansley, I believe it is. Go ahead.
Well, there is an underlying humor to it. because you do have that old television there. So even though it's underlying, maybe you could play it up a bit more. I don't know if you want to go in that direction, but I thought it was very cute. And I would like it to go slower. And I'm in Canada, and my friend was just telling me yesterday that his predictions from some other place that, our Trudeau and the finance person are on their way out. So you're right about that. That's what I think it's a good thing.
I mean, I have so many dear friends that are associated, live in Canada, you, for example, and I love you guys. And I want us to all be able to live in nations where we can be free and, not our life force be squelched by all these boxes of rules, and you can't do this and you can't do that. And that's also suppressing. So, whatever's in the highest good of Canada, I want that to be so.
Yeah.
I get my social needs met by doing stuff like this.
That's good.
Which, interestingly enough, according to the news report, isn't working so well for Africans, right? Because of outages and delays. So, yeah. And this has a value now in culture. A lot of us, especially through the lockdown, this is what we turn to connect.
Yes. Well,
Before you close out, Kathy, I just want to invite people that we're here every Thursday night and with a different guest conversationalist, and the first Saturday at noon. So that, speaking of, we have folks that join us from South Africa and other places that, at 8 o'clock is not doable for them. And Kathy, you have another wonderful guest coming up next week, Hilgis Pugh, Understanding the Human Soul, correct?
yes. He's very magical. So we'll I'm sure have an energetic experience with Hillis. And I think you'll find he's a master in his own right. So, and I just want to again make sure that everyone knows to go to Angie's website, and I can't recommend her work enough. She's just a gift to all of us, and her website is crystalarays.com. It was in the chat, and hopefully we'll have it in the chat in Facebook as well. Thank you, Bob.
And there's a free gift on there as well. So cruise around the website. There's a very nice gift there for you as well.
Great. So well, thank you, Angie. Yep. Hope to see you soon.
Bob and Noelle, thank you for
Thank
having
you.
me so much. Kathy, as always, I feel so much more comfortable when you're the one who interviews me because, I know you and I've laughed with you 100 times. So.
Yeah. Together. So
Well,
yes.
we're going to have you back. You know that.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah, we're going to have you back and see how your program is going. And so put it on your calendar.
Okay, will do. Well, thank you all so much. And to all the people who joined us, thank you. Thank you so much. I love seeing your faces. I love seeing your names. So many of you I know, and my heart is just warmed.
Thank you so much. There are some lovely messages in the chat. A few people had to leave early. Caesar, Susan, and a few others. So thank you all so much for being here, and hope to see you next Thursday night. And we'll see you in 6 months, Reverend Angie.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
Have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Bye-bye. Thank
Love
you.
you all.
Prevail on earth.